So this is Disney's Mulan. It is a classic film, whether you like, and I include that just with any genre. Doesn't matter that it's animated, it is a classic film. It was nominated for 1 Oscar. It made a lot of money. There are kids and adults still watching this movie to this day. Heck, I remember when I first went to theaters and saw the Huns running down that mountain with the snow and the bird flying. I remember thinking, wow, what great filmmaking. And then my dad has to be a killjoy and say, yeah, they just drew it. They didn't make... It's like, what are you talking about? But anyway, so, but as you can see right next to it, there is an ad for a girl that does not, well, she looks like Mulan, but she doesn't look like Mulan. Basically, she's real. I'm sorry, animated Mulan. Sorry, honey, that's my crush. Animated Mulan was cute and tomboyish and could fight, but was also feminine. I love Mulan. And you might also notice one more little thing. It's rated G. This movie has been watched for more than 20 years with a G rating. Now then, Disney wants to remake it live action. Okay, whatever. They're doing that for everything. I mean, look, you give The Lion King $1 billion and Beauty and the Beast $1 billion. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to mine every classic movie we have and make inferior products out of all of them. Granted, the Mulan live action looks more interesting than most. It looks a little different. Like, I actually kind of like the fact that they're not going to have the musical numbers. I like that. That's something different. And I like that there's going to be more of a focus on action. I kind of like that it's going to be like a martial arts film. I'm okay with Mushu not being there. But here's one thing that I do have a little bit of an issue with. Because the Mulan movie has been a kids' movie. It was made for, well, I'm not going to say it's a kids' movie. It was a family movie that kids could watch. Clearly, it's rated G. And whenever they make a live-action movie, they always make it PG, whether it needs to be PG or not. They gave PG to Cinderella because, I don't know, it's Tuesday, I guess. They gave PG to The Lion King, even though it was beat for beat the same movie the last time around. Granted, a lot of people argue that The Lion King probably should have been PG in the first place, and okay. But we are entering a new territory because Mulan has received a rating, and it's PG-13. Thank you for blocking that notifications from Empire. And I have to admit, this saddens me just a little bit. So let's look at this. Taking anime movies and translating them into the live action or sometimes photorealistic animation often comes with a shift in tone, harder hitting, more intense, more grounded and real, even though The Lion King felt more fake than the animated movie did, or the drawn one, I should say. But generally, Disney's recent spate of remakes has remained around the PG level. Even with that Mufasa moment in The Lion King, those pink elephants on parade in Dumbo, and the floaty horror of Will Smith's genie in Aladdin. But the upcoming Mulan seems to be going for a slightly older audience, according to the Ollie Reporter. It's bagged itself a PG-13 for sequences of violence. Now, let me comment on this. I'll kind of let you know what my personal issue with this is. You might not agree with me, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I have always felt one of the things. Actually, let me back this up just a step or two. One of the things that I feel makes Disney movies special, if you will, is that they are family friendly. Disney is trying to make themselves friendly for the kids. They're trying to be just as emotional as a movie like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and they want to do it with toys, for example. Or they want to do it with a Hunchback. Or they want to have a romance that rivals Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. And so they do that in The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast. But they have to include the kids. And what they do is they take their weaknesses and they turn them into strength. They make unassuming G-rated animated films, or sometimes live-action films, and they don't overdraw on things. They make it just enough so that you fill in the blanks. If you watch Beauty and the Beast, not Beauty and the Beast, The Lady and the Tramp as an adult, after the serenading of This Is the Night, which is a beautiful song and it's a cute little sequence, and then there's the morning after, you know something happened between those two dogs. It's not spoken about, but it's there. And as an older person, you are aware of it. Heck, even as a kid, you're aware of it, but it means something different. So when you're younger, you understand what's going on, but only on a base level. When you're an adult, you understand what's going on and you understand the true meaning behind it. That's what's nice about forcing their movies to be G and PG rated. The original Mulan, by the way, did this very, very well. The matchmaker did not have to say, this is a whore, beep, beep, and she is destined for the brothel house. They don't have to say that and get into areas that kids should not be aware of. All they have to do is say, you may look like a bride, but you will never bring your family honor, and everyone gets it. And the action sequences, yeah, there's no blood, but guess what? That Mountain View, breathtaking. They made the most out of a little bit and turned it into a lot. Now then, the live action Mulan is probably going to be a little different. I acknowledge that. It's live action. They've got a heck of a lot more money. I don't know why, but Disney is spending $300 million on this thing. Like $300 million. Like, why? Well, probably because most of these live action movies have made $1 billion. I mean, why the heck not? You have to make 3 times what you put into it to make your money back. And I think also Disney like Bob Iger wants his Oscar. He wants his Oscar, and he probably thinks making an epic Mulan is the way to do it. And who knows, he might be right. But the fact that this movie got a PG-13, Disney used to be a little more responsible than this. Because Disney was aware of what their movies meant to families. And they knew that they had a responsibility to release movies under the Disney banner that would not violate a parent's trust with their movies. That is why, when they were making Who Framed Roger Rabbit, even though the movie was ultimately rated PG, they're watching the dailies, they're looking at the humor, they're looking at the jokes, they're looking at Jessica Rabbit, and they're saying, we can't violate the parents' trust like this. We're releasing under the Touchstone Pictures banner. So, hey, you can't say this is Disney. Same thing with Dick Tracy. It was made as a Disney film. They looked at the violence, they looked at Madonna, and they decided, you know what? We can't violate the parents' trust. Yeah, it's only PG. Put it under Touchstone. They did it with The Nightmare Before Christmas. I mean, ultimately, they did embrace that as a Disney movie when it turns out parents really didn't care and kids were not as terrified as they thought they were going to be. But they didn't know at the time. So, hey, to err on the side of caution, The Nightmare Before Christmas is a Touchstone picture. Once Disney started releasing PG-13 movies, starting with Pirates of the Caribbean, where it was like, Walt Disney Pictures presents Pirates of the Caribbean, rated PG-13. I think something was being lost here. Not only do I think that Disney violated a parent's trust to not sell their kids movies that are potentially inappropriate for them, they kind of backed out of what was their biggest strength. They basically said teenagers want PG-13. It's cool to them. Well, you know what? Those teenagers, I don't know about you, but most of the movies I liked as a teenager, like when I was like a teen, have not held up very good. When you're a teenager, you think you like a certain type of movie, and then you grow up and you find out that movie kind of sucked. It really did, and that's not what you really wanted from movie. I remember Mr. Deeds being hilarious when I was a teenager. I watch it now and it's like, that isn't even humor. It's not even humor. Although I never did like The Waterboy. But anyway, I'm getting off topic here. So, with this PG-13 rating, what Disney is saying is like, hey, parents, we're going to be selling your kids So something that they should not be watching. This is intense enough that it warrants a warning for anyone under 13, but we're going to put our logo on it and invite parents to bring their kids, and we are violating that trust. And you know what? We're also going to backtrack. We don't feel comfortable enough in our movie to say that, hey, teens, adults, kids, you'll all love this. It doesn't matter if it's G, you will love it. I would be much happier, by the way, if Disney released this under Touchstone or Hollywood Pictures. I think the movie will make a heck of a lot of money anyway, but I'm getting tired of Disney releasing PG-13 movies. I go to Disney Plus, by the way, and this kind of shows the dilemma of Disney Plus. I made a video on my other channel, the Apptrepreneur, and I showed how to put on the family-friendly mode for Disney Plus so that movies like, Star Wars and the Avengers and movies that are rated PG-13 that should be for teenagers aren't shown to a 5-year-old. But I'm surprised we're even at this point. Disney used to be really good about not doing that to parents. And now parents actually have to look up and say, is it okay if I take my kids to see this Disney movie? I mean, think about it. What's wrong with that sentence? Is it okay if I bring my kid, if I take my niece, if I take my nephew, if I take my grandkid to Disney's Mulan? I mean, I think Disney still cares to a certain extent. I think that's why the Hunchback of Notre Dame Broadway show didn't actually go to Broadway. It did some tryouts. They released a cast recording because the tryouts did very well. But I think Disney looked at it and they said, this is way too intense for a family audience, but we have our name on it. And we don't know how to sell it without Disney's name on it. People might not realize what it is. So it just never went to Broadway. So I think Disney still cares, and yet this happens. This happens. Look, maybe the movie deserves a PG-13, and if anything, this does kind of suggest it's going to be a little different, although I want to point out one of my little issues I've had with Mulan so far. Here's Mulan. She's in the snow. Have not watched these previews, by the way. But this is like a famous battle scene. She's in the snow. She's obviously fighting the Huns. She looks like a woman. I thought the point of Mulan was that she wasn't. You know who would have probably been like a great Mulan? Awkwafina. Because she looks feminine and a little tomboyish at the same time and can probably blend between the two very well, but I don't know. Maybe she's not a big enough draw. I don't know. But yeah, so Mulan, live action, rated PG-13. I have to say, I've been meaning to finish that PG-13 video for a while. Once in a while, people still ask about it. Hey, you're going to make that movie? And I'm like, yeah, I will, and I never get around to doing it. But after this, I'm thinking maybe it's time I finish that video. I actually get down, the script's written. Maybe I should rewrite it just a little bit to include this, but I should actually make this. But now I'm going to ask you my question. What about you folks? Do you agree with any of this? Are you offended that Mulan is rated PG-13? Do you not care? Are you going to take your kids to see it anyway? I'd love to know. So comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.